Welcome to episode 58 of How to Play Like a WoW Pro. Today I have a replay for you in the Chieftain on the north side of Live Oaks. First of all, my equipment, I run HP base stab hardening. Then I also have another loadout with turbo V-stab turbo V-stab rammer. Did I say hardening earlier? I meant hardening V-stab rammer. In this replay, I'm not actually sure whether I picked the turbo loadout or not. I would assume... I'm honestly not sure. I'm like 50-50 on whether I would pick it or not, so I don't know what I do. But basically, I'm almost positive I go to this area here, and the reason why is you can shoot people pushing into one line. I've already had like 2 videos on this position in general, and just how powerful it is. But you're gonna see it again in this replay. Now the reason I'm showcasing this replay is, first of all, it's like a 10k plus game, or you'll see how much damage it ends up being, but it's a pretty huge game. And for that reason I wanted to show it. But also, you'll see how I progress the game later on. Because I've showed off how to counter this one-line push, the one-line push from the enemies, and how to shoot them as they go into the city, but I haven't really showed how to progress the game further after you farm the one-line push. I've showed in the Sheridan how after you farm the one-line push, if you're losing the east flank, how to defend the east flank, but I haven't shown you if your east flank is stalling, like it's a stalemate, or if you're winning the east flank, then how do you progress the game after you farm the one line? What do you do from that point on? So I'm going to be showing you how to do that in this game. Now I picked hardening instead of turbo, it looks like. Honestly, I think either would have been fine. Like, the advantage of bringing turbo is I get here sooner, and if somebody fast crosses here, then I'll be able to shoot them. But I think hardening was probably the best solution, now looking at their tanks more closely, because their heavy tanks are not especially fast. They're not like 277s or anything, so I should be able to get here in time to spot, for example, the Rhino, the E5, the VK 4K502B, the Renegade, the VK. So yeah, I actually think hardening was the correct decision here. But I've actually learned a few things just by making these videos. So I've made these videos on Live Oaks before. What I've actually learned is this position right here is probably the best position for you to start out in, unless maybe you're a light tank or something. Because if you're a light tank, you might want to go like this so that you can spot enemies who are crossing right here, very shallow, close to your teammates, so that you can get spots. But if you're in a slower tank like a Chieftain or a 907 or any medium or heavy tank basically, then I think this is probably the best place to start off. Now what I do at the start, what I ideally should have done is came in like this from the right side and knocked over this tree to the left so that it covers this area here, and then I can just knock over this second tree in front of it, this tree here, knock it over forward, so then this entire area here is covered by trees, so nothing crossing can spot me, nothing in these bushes can spot me, and nothing over here can spot me. And I kind of try to do that. As you saw, I turned right, I tried to knock it over left. I failed pretty miserably at that. Now I somehow missed the shot, which is extremely unlucky, but what can you do? And then he gets hit by a 4K5, which, now that I think about it, this game could have been massive, bro. Like, I'll just give you a hint. This game is somewhere around 10k or more damage. If this guy hadn't been hit by the 4K5, I probably could have shot him once, maybe twice. This could have been even more damage than that. And you'll see why this could have been such a huge game later on. Now the Rhino shoots me. He's right here. I'm just looking at the indicator. I know that he's right here. He shoots me once, and then I know that I'm going to take a second hit. I'm not going to be able to get into cover soon enough. And thankfully he bounces both of them. What I didn't expect is for him to have a third shot, because I didn't think he would have been loaded in time, but more time has passed than I thought, and so he actually did have a third shell loaded, but thankfully all three bounced. That's extremely lucky. This could have been way worse. But that's basically the only position that can really counter this one, is this position right here, and you have to have great gun depression to play there on lit, and the Rhino is like one of the few tanks that actually does have that. But now that I know the Rhino is playing there, I decide not to play here because it's just too weak to that position. And secondly, I knocked over the trees really poorly, so I can't exactly play here anymore because I can get lit through this gap right here. If I had knocked over the trees properly, then I still could have played there, potentially. But if I did play there, even if I had knocked over the trees correctly, I wouldn't get lit before I fired, but I probably would get lit after I fired. So even then, even if I had knocked them over correctly, there's a good chance that I shouldn't play there. It's better to play here because from this position, I'm much safer from the Rhino position, but I still get very similar spots and shots on anybody playing in the D1 area. And that's what I'm looking for here. I knock over some trees. And this is actually pretty aggressive, to be honest, looking at what's unspotted. They have a Rhino unspotted. I know he's here. They have an E5 unspotted, a VK, a Renegade, and a VK. But these tier 8s are kind of irrelevant. I don't really care about them. Even the tier 9 is pretty relevant. The only thing I really care about is the Rhino and the E5 and then the 4K5. Those are really the only tanks that can damage me in this situation. The Patton is spotted in the south, so I know he's not a threat. All these tanks are basically just free damage. Like anything below the VK is just free damage. I don't care if they shoot me. They're almost definitely going to bounce. I can play hold down on them. The only real threats are these guys. Now I know where the Rhino is. I know he's here. The E5, I have no clue where he is. The 4K5, I'm assuming is probably here. And he's actually the biggest threat right now. So there's a chance that the Rhino shoots me 1 or 2 times pushing in, and I'm okay with that. Because even if he does, I know that nobody has crossed here. So if anybody's playing here, I can just take this position right here and basically side scrape and play like hull down on them. So they're not a big threat. So the only real threat is the Rhino shooting me a couple times, which I'm okay with. Because I'll eventually be able to progress to here, which is a great position for farming anybody who's here, for farming anybody who's here, especially with the Chieftain gun depression, and for spotting anybody on this ridge. But then the other threat is the 4K5. Now the 4K5 can be playing at this house, and if he's playing at this house, he has a small gap between right here and right here where he can shoot me. And that's what I'm most worried about in this situation, especially since the game is so early on. I've done nothing so far. If I get penned by a 4K5, then my game could be over, like instantly. But thankfully he doesn't shoot at me. I don't even know if I was lit, to be honest. I don't think I was. But I see that the Rhino's not on this ridge, so I take the opportunity to just cross to here. And as I said just a few seconds ago, once you push up to this ridge, anybody playing in this area is basically just a free kill. And so even though it's been 2 minutes and I only have 1 shot of damage, this is a very good situation because this position, especially for a Chieftain which has like 12 degrees of gun depression, it's a very good situation. Because I kill anybody who plays here, and then I can also rotate over here, and if anybody's playing in this area right here, which is very, very common, I have enough gun depression to play hull down against them. There aren't many tanks which have enough gun depression to play hull down against these guys, but the Chief is one of those tanks. And finally we spot the E5, but he's no longer a threat because I'm in this very good hull down position and I have teammates behind me. Now there on the Rhino, the best place to shoot is definitely the triangle on top of his tank. The reason why I don't just shoot the cheeks is because he's slightly angled upwards, If he were on flat ground, then you could have no problem penning the cheeks, but since he's slightly angled upwards, if I'm not mistaken, this is probably like a 50-50 pen, or maybe 40-60. It's just not a great chance to pen. So instead I go for the triangle. Now that was probably slightly unlucky, but I think it was also not the best aim, fortunately. Now here I see the e5 pushing behind me. Now what I decided to do here is push forward and make sure that the e5 can't hit me, while giving the Rhino a free shot on me. And that's because I know that the Rhino has already fired like twice minimum. I wasn't completely paying attention, but I think he fired at least 2 times, maybe 3. So I was fine with taking a shot from him if it meant that I didn't get hit by the e5 at all. That was a terrible shot. Man, the more I watch this replay, the more I wonder how incredibly insane this game could have been. Like, I already missed out on like the T30. I could have shot him once, maybe twice. This guy I could have definitely shot once. I just failed. Here's what I was talking about, where you can play hull down, mostly hull down on this position here. If you go a little bit lower, I think you, like on this corner here, then you're completely hull down, but I'm not too worried because I'm mostly hull down here. Here, this is a little bit risky, so I didn't wait to get unlit before pushing into here. Now the reason why this is risky is not because of these tier 8 TDs. I really couldn't care less if I get shot by them. Even if they pen me, it doesn't really matter. The game is, we're winning, and the game is like time-wise, it's probably at minimum halfway over. The main reason why this is risky is their 4K5 is still unlit. Now I don't think he's here because I'm pretty sure I would have spotted him, so I think that's why I decided to do this, but the safer play would have been to wait until I get unlit, because if I go around here when I'm unlit, this tree right in front of me, this tree right here, would have blocked me from getting lit from these TDs here, and I would have been able to get probably all the way here before getting lit, and then they could potentially shoot at me, but I'm basically already underneath them. Now here I just go for a blind shot because I'm like 99% sure that there's a TD there. Like, there's 3 unlit TDs on Live Oaks. Where do you think they are? We've taken this much map control. Where are the TDs? Obviously there's going to be at least 1 here. If not, then that's just extremely rare. So I hit the blind shot on the Scorpion. That was a pretty good blind shot, to be honest. Now once you get to this position here, you can really farm a decent amount of damage. And the first thing you need to be looking for is, first of all, is there anybody who's still alive on the backside of this hill? If there's anybody on the backside of this hill, then you push up to here and shoot them on the side. But you need to be kind of careful, because if anybody's still alive at this building here, especially if it's a tank with armor, like a T110E3, then they can shoot you in the back of the turret, so you just have to be a little bit careful. If it's something like a 4K5, then you just push up here, start shooting them in the face, and then hopefully these guys are too distracted by your teammates. You just need to be paying attention to where the enemies are looking and what you can get away with. But you are hull down on whoever you're peeking on. Even if the other party can shoot you in the back of the turret, it's usually pretty safe, as long as you're careful. In this situation, nobody's here, and nobody's here. So then the third place that you can get damage after you push down here is on this place right here. Now I'm aware of this, so I'm looking for that. Well, first I guess I poke here in case the SU is here, or the 4K5, but they aren't here. But then I wisen up a little bit, and I decide to push forward enough to shoot this Cobra, because this angle here exists, and it's a pretty common angle. Even in Clan Wars, this is an angle that I find myself using pretty often. But the trick to this is you need to make sure you're in render range. So I'm pretty sure that shot on the Cobra hits. Unfortunately, my team, as you can see on the minimap, they're backed off, so they're not going to proxy the Cobra. And I ping this, asking my teammates to move up. But they aren't, which, you know, I can't really blame them. Pushing into this dip is literally a terrible idea. I mean, usually it's a pretty bad idea. But now, as you can see, their 4K5 and their SU are still unlit, and their VK, which is really surprising to me. But that basically tells me their 4K5 and SU are probably somewhere in this area here. Their 4K5 is almost definitely back here because he can't play here very easily at all. Like, he'll get lit from some angle because it has 1% camo. The SU could technically be over here still. But there's almost 100%. There's like a 100% chance that at least one of them is in this area here. So I decided to poke this bush looking for them. I spot the arty. I fire a little bit clutch because I was worried about my team shooting them. But in retrospect, I don't think I needed to do that. I just wasn't looking at the minimap at the time, so I didn't realize none of my teammates had a shot. But I noticed that this tree is down. And so I'm kind of assuming that it's like the SU or the 4K5 there. I assume it's the 4K5 because that's like the worst case scenario. But if you pay attention, I didn't get lit, so that means nobody's poking this bush. But I actually do get lit. Now that's because of the Udez pokes late, I'm pretty sure. Like, he wasn't poked at first, but then he pokes late. But paying attention to your sixth sense can usually give you a lot of information. It's not just when Sixth Sense is not just a tool to tell you when you get lit. Sixth Sense is a tool to tell you when you don't get lit as well, and that's probably almost just as valuable because a lot of the time you want to spot check an angle to see if anybody's playing that angle, like if they're in a bush or something, or to find a light tank. And for example, in this situation, if they're 4K, if I got lit coming down here, I would have stopped at this hole down here and just blind fired this bush because I'm almost 100% sure that there's somebody in there. But I got lit late, so I fully committed. Now here, the reason why I decided to play on this side instead of over here is because, as you can see, there's kind of a ridge here. It's a pretty shallow ridge, but there is a ridge. So if I play over here, in this area here, if I poke up here and shoot anybody playing like here or over here, then potentially the standard B or 4K5 could turn around and try to poke me from one of these areas here and shoot me in the side. Now if I'm playing over here, there's nowhere really to hide. If they poke this corner here, I'm completely in the open, but if I'm playing over here, then if I get lit and I see that one of these guys is coming over, then I can just back down into the low ground and this ridge will cover me. But I see that we're up 3k HP and I want to get damage out quickly because I'm kind of assuming that the game will end quickly. Now the Patton hits a really nice shot on me there, which is unfortunate. But I actually learned something this game, and what I learned is the Chieftain has so much freaking gun depression that you can actually play hull down on these guys, even though they're right in front of you. These railroad tracks, you have enough gun depression to play hull down on them, so they hardly even have a shot on you. Now here, I have like 3 different targets to shoot at. Now I'm still kind of keeping an eye on the 4K5 especially, because I don't really care if the standard B shoots me once, I'll just back off. If the 4K5 shoots me once, then I die, so I'm paying attention to the 4K5. But I see that he's not poking over here, he's occupied with our AMX. So in this situation, I really just have a choice of shooting 3 targets. Now who should I shoot in this situation? Well, this guy, he's pretty low down. Even though he's a one-shot, I'll have to expose to the Udez in order to shoot him and the Renegade. So it's probably not worth it to shoot him, because he's basically a free kill later on anyway, because I can just go haul down on him after I kill the Udes or whatever. So should I shoot the Renegade or the Udes? Well, the Renegade's not paying attention to me, and the Udes is. So if I turn my turret for the Renegade, then the Cobra and potentially the Udes will shoot me. Whereas if I aim at the Udes, the Cobra won't be able to pen me, and the Udes only has a small chance of penning me, and the Renegade's not paying attention to me. So the obvious choice here is to shoot the Udes. As you can see, I'm still like looking off to the side once in a while just to pay attention to the 4K5. Now, if you pay attention, I'm a greedy damage whore, and I decided to shoot the Renegade instead of the Udes. Now this Renegade just turns and snaps the fucking shit out of me and hits like here. I don't know how he did that. And then the Cobra also penned me. I think they got kind of lucky, to be honest. Like, they probably... Like, maybe the Cobra should pen me, but... They shouldn't both pen me. That was pretty lucky of them. But it's not the end of the world, because I still have 1,000 HP. So I can still make this work. The Cobra shoots me, but he hits me in the turret, so it only does 30. Now here, the VK finally gets lit, and he's just completely in the open, and I'm hauled down to him. As you can see, between every single shot I'm looking over here, especially now that I'm lower health, the standard B is a bigger threat to me. But this is just a complete damage farm right now. And I'm shooting the tank that's highest up to me first, because if I try to shoot the tank that's lower, I'll be more exposed. But the Patton flanks me, and I kind of assumed that this area here was lit, but it actually wasn't. So now I'm kind of in a bad situation because the Patton could just technically trade with me, and I might even die for it because he has 1100 and I have 500, even if this guy shoots him, which isn't a guarantee. 1 second. Sorry about that. So yeah, even if this Type 61 shoots this guy, he could still potentially kill me because he out reloads me, and I'm a 2-shot and he's a 3-shot. And I still just don't even want to go down to 1-shot anyways, so I have to get into cover. Thankfully the Patton backs off. I'm pre-aimed on the standard beat. I had HE loaded because I'm a Chad. I think I had no, I think I high rolled that actually. I don't think I had HE loaded. That actually would have been pretty stupid to load HE there. If I did have HE loaded, that was a mistake, but... Because he's a 2-shot anyways, so there's no reason to load HE, and it's just an extra risk. But now I'm a 2-shot. I'm potentially a 1-shot for the 4K5. And I need to be very careful. And I almost make a huge mistake here. So I kept poking. I almost definitely should have just stayed hull down here and played it safe. But I'm looking at my damage and I see that I'm at almost 8k, and I know I have 1 or 2 blind shots. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at the remaining health and I see 4,000, and I'm thinking this could easily be 12k damage right now. Or not easily, but I have a possibility for like 11 or 12k damage. And so I'm kind of horny for the damage, to be honest. So I make a risky play, and I get away with it, thankfully. The 4K5, even if he did hit me, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to hit my turret, and it won't do enough damage to kill me. It'll only do like 200 damage. And plus, he wasn't fully aimed. That was kind of a semi-snapshot. So he would have had to hit like this area here, I think, in order to hit me. Which is pretty unlikely, but it's still... If I'm playing for the win in this situation, that's definitely an unnecessary risk. But now that the 4K5 is fired, I decide to be more aggressive. Because he's reloading, obviously. Now I'm paying attention. I'm wondering if this Patton will cross over the rails, because if he does, then I want to shoot him right here. Because this guy, he's a free kill for me. I can go completely hull down on him and just kill him. This guy, he's not, so it makes sense to shoot him first, Because if I kill this guy first, then there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to shoot the Patton afterwards. Whereas if I kill this guy first, there is a guarantee that I'm going to be able to shoot this guy afterwards. But I don't have a great shot on the Patton, so I decided to go for the VK instead. Unfortunately, I bounced that. I think I aimed poorly. And here, I did not expect the 4K5 to have been loaded this quickly. I thought I had at least like 5 more seconds, but I didn't. And so that was a mistake by me. I don't know if he has a Bond rammer or if I just underestimated his reload. But I actually die here, which really sucks once you look at the post-game stats, because as you see, they have 2700 HP left. This guy is basically a free kill for me if I just avoid the 4K5, and then after that I can pretty easily deal with the rest of their tanks because they're all low tiers, and the 4K5 is super easy to go hold down on. All of these tanks, to be honest, are easy to go hold down on, so this could have easily been 12k damage if things had gone better. But let me just quickly show you the post-game stats and show you what I'm talking about. So I did 9,998 damage. I had 4, or maybe it was 3 blind shots, I'm not sure. I think on maybe the Rhino, the Scorpion, and then I'm not sure what the last one was on. But yeah, hopefully this replay has taught you how to kind of progress the game after you've won, or after you've what's the word? After you've dealt with the one-line push, so you bleed them for free. Then a lot of the time, especially if they have no one left in the city, then you want to progress the game. And this replay shows you how to do that. You push up to this ridge. This is usually the route you want to take. You want to push up to this ridge, kill anybody in this area here, then poke here and spot anybody here. Even if you don't have enough gun depression to shoot these guys in return, you still are able to spot them, and a lot of the time your team will have angles on it. Then after that, after you've mostly dealt with this and dealt with everybody here, then you can push underneath, and then from here you can kill anybody here, or anybody here, usually pretty easily. Now there's one big caveat to all of this, and that's the fact that if you're trying to progress the game on this flank, when your team is heavily losing the east flank very quickly, you could find yourself in a huge problem, and that's when you try to push to here to kill anybody here, but the enemy team has already pushed underneath like this, and if they take this area here, they can shoot you in the side, and that's a huge problem. So whenever you're about to make the play from here, like this initial position, to push up to D2, you want to ask yourself, how is the game going in the south? Are we winning? Is it a stalemate? Or are we losing very heavily? And are they going to push underneath? If they're going to push underneath, a lot of the time the right play is just to not commit to here at all, and the best play is to show you to do what I showed you in the Sheridan game, which is to come back here and farm them as they push up the 0 line or something like that. But if your team is not losing the 0 line, then pushing under here, besides shooting these areas, you can also shoot underneath the bridge if you get into render distance. And that's basically the main point of what I was trying to show in this replay. But at the end of the game, I farmed like 4k damage or something just in this area here, and that doesn't happen very often, but this replay was kind of an exception, as most 10k damage games replays are. Like, most of them are all just exceptions, because you have to get somewhat lucky to do 10k damage. Either the enemies have to be bad, or your matchup has to be insanely good, or the map just really favors your tank, or a combination of all three. And I would say this replay was a combination of all three. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.